Number one is realize it's your trauma talking. It's very important to become aware that when those emotions come, it's because of trauma in your life. Often, those feelings can catch us off guard. But it's very important that you become aware that the reason why you're feeling disconnected or depressed or angry is because of what you went through in your life. And to tell yourself, it makes sense. It's because of that. Number two is practice a grieving routine. In other words, it's okay for you to lament your childhood trauma. It's important, in fact, that you pause and that you think about what took place when you were young. Now, I understand that most of us don't want to go back there. Those memories are too painful. They are too buried. They are out of control. You may say, what's the point of going back there? They're only going to destroy me. But in fact, it's quite the opposite. When you go back there in a gentle way and you actually practice a grieving routine, you will find healing. And what I mean by practicing a grieving routine is that you have a method where you discipline yourself to go back and reflect on the loss. Number three is avoid putting your feelings on everyone else. Many times we want everyone to feel the way we feel, to be miserable, to not enjoy the holidays. We resent those who want to listen to Christmas music in October. We resent the ads on TV. We resent the mall being all dressed up with holiday traditions. It's okay for you to feel that way, but don't put your feelings on everyone else. Instead, tell them your story. Let them know why you feel the way you feel. Give them a little bit of your perspective, a little bit of your past in simple ways. You don't have to go into detail about everything that happened to you, but bring awareness to them. Because when we speak of our own past and we tell our stories, it actually allows other people to be in touch with their own pain and to find healing together. Number four, remember that it's nobody's fault. That what you went through is not your fault. It's not God's fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not the church's fault. It's not the leaders in your job. It's not your boss's fault. Try to avoid blaming everyone else for your own pain. Try to avoid going online and blaming the government, blaming your past, blaming your family. I think, as I said earlier, that lamenting and grieving, it's very important. But try to avoid feeling that everyone is out to get you. Remember that it's your own trauma. Remember that the people at church or at work or in school are not trying to harm you. In fact, they're mostly unaware of your story. So when you catch yourself feeling upset, remember your own past. Remember your story. And let that be a trigger to lament and to grieve a little bit of your past. In that you will find healing. Number five is give yourself grace. It will take years. Really, to me, this is the most important point. Give yourself the grace and the time to heal. And when I say time, I'm not talking about 1 year. I'm not talking about even maybe 2 or 3. I'm talking about a lifetime. Many times we want to fast track through loss. We want to fast track through our parents' divorce. We want to speed through the pain that we felt when we were 5 and those memories that we had when we were 7 years old, and how our parents made our lives miserable, or how because of living in 2 different countries or having 2 or 3 different cultures or traditions, we never felt like we belonged. Try to avoid blaming everyone else and instead give yourself grace. Forgive yourself. Forgive life. Forgive your parents. Live in a place of grace, especially towards yourself. Give yourself a break. Don't expect more of yourself than you can deliver. Number 6 is go with your heart. Don't edit your desires for the holidays. Instead, be clear about what you truly want or don't want. Maybe you want to take a trip with your family. Maybe this year you want to get a big 12-foot Christmas tree. On the other hand, maybe this year you don't want to overdo it and you want to spend less. Go with your gut. Be clear about what you want in order to have a good Christmas that benefits you. Now, I know that all of us, especially as parents, we want to make our kids' dreams come true. But here's what happens. When we have such high expectations of ourselves and how we're supposed to look, what we're supposed to wear, how our house is supposed to look, where we should be by now, how much money we need to make, and most of all, how many gifts we're supposed to buy our kids, guess who loses? You and your family. It's best to actually have a plan and to actually communicate that plan to your family, which leads me to number 7. Number 7 is communicate your plan to those you love. Let them know that you deal with the holiday syndrome. Be a little bit vulnerable with those closest to you. Tell your children of your past in appropriate ways that can help them come into your story. Tell them of where you've been. Tell them a little bit of your trauma. Don't overdo it, but communicate your plan to them. Tell them that you're still not fully healed. Tell them that you're in process. And in that way, you're going to model for them healing and wellness, and model for them the fact that you're still in process. But it's important that you communicate your plan to them, because otherwise people have no clue of why you're going up and down, of why this year you left the country for 3 months, or why you're spending so much money that maybe you don't have. Communicate that plan to those who love you and be open to hearing their input and come to a good compromise between you, yourself, your past, and your family. You know, what God says to us, what God wants to tell you today is that He wants to give you peace that isn't like anyone else. It says in the scriptures, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. I want to sing to you a song that has been very helpful to me as I write my own holiday syndrome plan and as I began to heal during the holiday season. It's called He Knows My Name. And He knows my name, and He knows my every thought, and He hears each tear that falls, and hears me when I call. And He knows my name, and He knows my every thought, and He hears each tear that falls, and hears me when I call. He hears me when I call. That's the promise of God, that He hears you when you call. Every tear that you shed, He loves it. I just want to pray for you that you will have the peace and the rest of God. As I wrap this up, I just want to thank you for being here. I'm so proud of you for taking time to work on these very important topics. And I want to invite you to come back next week where I want to really go more in depth in this topic. And I want to actually talk about what to do with childhood trauma, especially if you have something that you can't seem to shake. I want to talk about that next week. And if you want to continue this conversation, I invite you to go to my blog at davidTrig.com, where I will also post a written out article describing these 7 tips. You can also look for me on Instagram, where I'm going to post pictures of what it looks like to have a grieving plan. You can also find me on Facebook, where I will post links to the songs that I'm singing and to videos that I am making on these very important topics. You can also find me on Twitter, where I will write quotes from this video, just quick takeaways and quotables that you can then repost and send to your friends. You can find me on Twitter at davidTrig LA.